Welcome. Today is Friday, August 18th, 2023. And welcome to another episode of Real Estate, Real Life, Real Talk, and Real Live with your host, myself, Damon, the agent. Well, as you all always know, I like to start my show off with talking about the latest real estate trend, question, or topic. So this week's topic is, what is the difference between a HELOC and refinancing? That's a very good question. That question has been asked to me many times before, and because it's been brought up, I've decided to just explain to some of you all what is the difference. First of all, let me explain what a HELOC is, because some people do not know what a HELOC is. A HELOC, H-E-L-O-C, is a home equity line of credit. And what that basically means is when you own a home and you have equity in your home, you can basically take the equity from your house. And when you take the equity from your house, it comes in the form of a line of credit. So for example, let's say you had $100,000 worth of equity in your home. You wanted to take some money out, but you didn't want to refinance. You needed some cash, but you didn't want to refinance, and the house is your primary residence. So if it's your primary residential and you need to take cash out, you can pull some of the equity out of your home. And basically what happens is when you try to do it, they'll actually do an appraisal to make sure that you have the equity in your home. And you can take out I think it's up to 80% of what the equity is. So let's say, for example, you have a mortgage balance of 100,000. You have 100,000 worth of equity in your home. So you need some cash. So you go ahead and take $80,000 out, and you do not have to refinance your home. So, and in most cases, a HELOC is actually cheaper than when you refinance and pull money out. So let me talk about the refinancing aspect. Refinancing is when you're basically refinancing the interest rate on your home and you're resetting the mortgage balance. For example, if you had your mortgage for, let's say, 12 years. So that means when you initially signed up, there's a 30-year mortgage on most loans. I mean, they have a few that's 20, 15, but the typical most popular one is 30-year mortgage. So let's say you have been in your home for 12 years and you decide to refinance. It's going to reset from you having 18 years remaining to going back to 30. Of course, your mortgage balance is going to be cheaper because the balance of the loan is cheaper. I mean, if you've been paying on it for 12 years, the balance is cheaper. So let's say hypothetically you had a house, bought it for $300,000. You've been paying on it for 12 years. Let's say you owe around $200,000. Of course, if you reset the loan, you refinance, you're trying to refinance for a lower interest rate, lower monthly payments, and it's going to restart your mortgage. So now you're going from the 18 years remaining to going to 30 years again. So the difference between the HELOC and the refinance is the refinancing, you can pull money out as well, but you're restarting your loan and you're trying to get a lower payment. With a HELOC, you're just adding a separate line to your property. You're adding a second lien to your property because the mortgage is always going to be the first lien, and the second lien is going to be the line of credit that you're choosing to pull from your equity to use. So I hope that clarifies what's the difference between a HELOC and refinancing. So what we're going to do today also is go to the questions and answers like we did last week. Last week, it was very popular with a lot of people asking questions. I still have questions to answer from last week because when I got off of my podcast, there were a few questions that came through. And then I also had some people who yesterday asked me a whole bunch of questions. So I'm going to pose them to you all as well. If you all have any questions, please feel free to post them so I can answer them as well. I love helping you out, helping you all to get up to date on what's the latest real estate terms and hopefully give you all some type of clarity. So let me start because I have quite a few. All right, let me go through my phone because I missed some yesterday. Bear with me 1 second, you all. Okay, here go the questions again. This one says, how can I use my home to pay for home improvements such as windows, etc.? And that's a good question, and I practically just answered it when I just talked about HELOCs and refinancing. But also, there's another feature such as the FHA 203K loan. If you do have a home and you have repairs that you would like to do, like I said, you can refinance, pull it from refinancing. You can do a HELOC where you take that money out through the line of credit, or you can do a refinance with an FHA 203K loan. I briefly talked about that before, which a FHA 203K loan is a rehab renovation loan, in which you will basically be refinancing your home and your mortgage, and all the repairs, the total, the costs, and everything will be included in your refinance amount. So again, let's say you have a home for 200,000, you have equity for 100,000. So you refinance about 50,000 of that to do some renovations around the home. Those are way that you can do home improvements through either pulling a HELOC, through refinancing, pulling cash, or do refinance to do a FHA 203K loan, which is a rehab renovation loan. Another question was, if you own land and you want to eventually build, what's the easiest way to go about that? So if you own land and you want to eventually build, what's the easiest way to go about that? Now that's a very good question too. Now what I like to say about land is you have to find out what the land is zoned for. There are land out here that people can buy, but you have to understand all land is not zoned for residential. There's a lot of land out here that's zoned for agricultural. There's a lot of land out here that's zoned for commercial. You have to find the usage of what what the usage of the land is for. Now you can always hire a realtor to purchase the land. You can also hire separate construction companies, but it's a lot of tedious work that goes into building a home. That's why so many people don't do it. And you have to also know, if you don't use a construction company, then you're going to have to pay for everything separate, from the architect, from the plumber, from the electrician, from the roofer, from just all the general contractors, which can sometimes cost a lot. And these people like to be paid up front, especially with a deposit. So that's why it's more traditional and easier to just purchase a home. But if you're going to get land, you need to clearly understand what is the usage of the land that you're purchasing, whether it's residential, whether it's commercial, whether it is agricultural. Because when you see land out there for sale, you'll be surprised. A lot of it sometimes is for commercial usage or even agricultural uses, because in some area people can do farming. So once you find that out, you got to get the proper zoning papers. You got to go down to your local government as far as the zone department and find out what it is and everything, so you can make sure that you're purchasing the right land, because you don't want to purchase a land for home but it's only to be used for agriculture. So the easiest way to do that would be to hire a professional to find out the uses of the land, like myself, a realtor, and then also discuss how you're going to go about financing that, because they have certain loans. The traditional loan is an FHA or conventional loan, but for land, they actually have construction loans. So you need to find out a lot of things when it pertains to purchasing land and how you can build that. So it's just about research and everything, but it can be done. It's just going to take some tedious work on your behalf. So be prepared for the process, because it is a process. All right, here goes some more questions. Another question is it mandatory to have your real estate taxes included in your mortgage? Is it mandatory? Yes, it is mandatory when you have a mortgage to pay to have your taxes included. The reason being is people will tend to neglect that, and plus the states and local governments have made it mandatory. They want to make sure that they get their money. They're not going to rely on the homeowner to always be able to pay that bill, but they know that the homeowners have to pay that mortgage. So yes, it is mandatory. Now, once there is no lien against the property, then they will actually send the tax bill directly to the homeowner. So there are plenty of homeowners who are free and clear of their property, don't own a mortgage on it, but they do have to pay their own annual taxes. But if you do have a mortgage, yes, it is mandatory. Another question was, can you waive an appraisal? Can you waive an appraisal be done on a house? The answer to that is no. If you are using a loan product to purchase a home, you cannot waive an appraisal being done. The reason is, though, is the lenders want to make sure that that house that you're out there purchasing is actually worth whatever's written in the contract. So they're not going to allow people to waive an appraisal, because you could be overpaying for a house, because sellers always want the most that they can get from a house. So you can have a house that's being that in the area based off the comps is worth only $350. You can have a seller who say, okay, I want to sell my house for $550. And then you can have someone who say, okay, I'll give you $550 for it because I really like that house. And the house is being overpriced and everything. So you have to understand it to have some type of regulation. Appraisals are put in place for these reasons. So no, you cannot waive having an appraisal. What's another question? Can I list my house for what I want rather than what the local comps say? Yes, you can do that. You can list your house for whatever you want. But here's the thing. With the internet, Google, technology, you can list it for $1 million. But if the houses in your area are only selling for $400,000, consumers are smart these days. 9 times out of 10, matter of fact, most likely 10 times out of 10, they're not going to give you $1 million for a house that's worth $400,000. So you can list your house for any price that you want. And one of the things that's going on right now, when you see a lot of houses that are sitting on the market, they're sitting on the market for various reasons, but two of them is they're either overpriced or they need some work done to them. So when you have a lot of houses that show well, that look good, but they're substantially overpriced, nobody's going to buy it. But guess what? It's listed for the price that you actually see it. So you can list your house for whatever you want to list it for. But is someone going to buy it? That's the question. And 9 times out of 10, most people are not going to buy it. And if they are going to buy it, going back to the appraisal thing, if they're using a home loan, they have to get an appraisal. And once the appraisal come back and saying that the house is not worth whatever you offer for them, guess what? The lenders are only going to finance the appraised value. So now the seller has to agree or not agree to the appraised value. And if they don't agree to the appraised value, understand that that appraisal that's just been done on that property is stamped against that property for 6 months, depending on which loan product is used. So let's go to the next question. Is a contract voidable if all terms have been agreed upon? Is a contract voidable if all terms have been agreed upon? The answer is no. You cannot void a contract just because you don't want to go through if both the seller and the buyer have agreed upon the terms. Now, you can void a contract if you have contingencies in the contract. This is why a lot of time real estate professionals like myself like to properly advise a buyer when it pertains to making an offer, because a lot of times there's a financial contingency put in place, there's an appraisal contingency, and there's a home inspection contingency put in place in a contract. The reason why these contingencies are put in place are to protect the buyer, but that gives them an out. Okay, and those based off those contingencies, it can become voidable. But if you do not have any contingencies in a contract, then you cannot just void a contract if both the buyer and seller have agreed upon the terms of the contract, because a seller can then request for a buyer's earnest money deposit. And this is part of the reason why earnest money deposits have been put in place. Many years ago, people were writing contract. They didn't have to include an EMD, or earnest money deposit. And what was happening was a lot of buyers will write an offer on 3, 4, 5 properties. And then on the property that they got accepted and really wanted, they tend to went with that one, but they left the other one stranded, didn't care, didn't come back. The sellers lost money because they wasted time. They could have potentially had another buyer. So the EMD is to make sure and to see how serious a buyer is, but it's also to protect the sellers, because if the buyers tend to try to walk away, sellers can request that. So is a contract voidable if all terms of a contract are agreed upon? No, unless there are some contingencies in the contract, and then whatever those contingencies, like I said, whether it's the appraisal, whether it's the home inspection, or whether it's the financing, unless those contingencies fall through to the point that gives you an out. Otherwise, there is no way that the contract can be avoidable. So the answer is no. Someone said, what is an assignment of a contract? That's a good question. An assignment of a contract is when, say, a buyer and a seller have agreed upon the terms, and the buyer has assigned the contract to a third party. For example, such as an investor. That happens a lot with wholesaling. A lot of people who wholesale, they tend to do that. They might write a contract on a property and then they go shop the contract around to try to sell it for a higher price. So can it be assigned? What is an assignment? Assignment is when a buyer gets into contract with a seller and then they go and assign it to someone else. So for example, if the buyer bought the contract for $240,000, they shop the property around, they get an investor to buy for $300,000, then that $60,000 difference, that buyer, the initial buyer, is looking to profit when it goes to settlement. So then the contract gets assigned to that investor, who is the third party, because the two parties involved is always the seller and the buyer. The third party is the investor. So that is what an assignment of contract is when the buyer assigns it to someone else to take over the initial contract. Someone said, what is a option to purchase? What is an option to purchase? An option to purchase is when a home buyer has the right to purchase a home, for example, within a specific time period. The option is this: when a buyer gets approved for a home loan, they now have the option of going to buy a house. And when they get approved for a home loan, most of the time when you get approved for a home loan, you have a specific amount of time that approval is good for, such as 60 days in most cases. But now that you have been fully approved, you have the option to go buy a property. Now, let's say someone else who wants to buy a house, but they can't get qualified because they don't have the credit, the funds, so they cannot get they cannot get approved for a home loan. Therefore, they have no option to purchase because they don't have an approval. So option to purchase is a home buyer has an exclusive right to purchase a property within a specific period of time. And that is when a lot of times a buyer has the funds to purchase, especially in approval. So once they are approved, they have a specific amount of time to go look for a home. They have the option to buy. So that is what is an option to purchase is. Okay, these are some great questions. Another one is, can I do a for sale by owner? The answer to that is yes. If you are a homeowner, you can do a for sale by owner, which you are selling your home yourself without using the professional services of a realtor, broker, or whomever. Just understand that there's a lot of things, unless you are an attorney or unless you know a lot of the legal aspects of selling a home, there may be loopholes that you may not know about. So I would always strongly suggest for you to do your due diligence and research if you're trying to do it yourself, because a lot of people think it's easy being a realtor. They think it's so sweet. But if it's so sweet, why do so many people get out of real estate? I'm pretty sure everybody knows somebody who was a realtor and they got out of it. And 9 times out of 10, what you're going to hear from those people is, oh, they put their license inactive, or they decided to go somewhere else, or it just wasn't for them. But here's the thing. If you're selling a whole bunch of $1 million homes and you're getting money, you're going to continue to do it. The reason why is it's not as easy as people think. Once they get into real estate, they say, oh, I'm going to try real estate. But the truth is, real estate is going to try you. And it's really for the strong and the knowledgeable and the experienced and the people who have that gritty and know-how. So if you're not as knowledgeable, you're not experienced, you don't have certain characteristics about you, it's going to be tougher than what it seems. And the same thing goes for sale by owner. You'll find out, you'll get a lot of calls from realtors who are going to try to solicit and say that they have a buyer, but a lot of times they know that, okay, they really need a realtor. So they're trying to solicit their service. But again, you have to know how to screen certain people. You have to know the aspects of the contract. You have to know a lot of things that goes on when it pertains to selling a home. So it can be done because it's been done plenty of time, but it's not as efficient as having and hiring a professional. Sometimes people think they are saving because of the commission that they pay, but they end up losing more on the back end of what they're selling for and everything else. Many people do. Not all, but many do. So yes, you can be a for sale by owner. You can do a for sale by owner. Now, people, if you have any questions, please have them come in. I mean, I do have questions to answer, but if you also have questions, feel free to ask me any questions when it relates to real estate. Another question is, if you don't pay HOA fees, do they place a lien on your home or can they foreclose on your home? So basically, if you have an HOA fee and you don't pay it for whatever reason, can the HOA association place a lien on your property, and can they foreclose on your home? And the answer is yes. Here's the thing. If you have HOA dues that you have to pay and you do not pay them, what you have to take into consideration is whenever you decide to sell your home, that amount that you owe plus legal fees, plus late fees, plus interest are all going to be tacked onto whatever you didn't pay. So let's say hypothetically, I'm going to use something simple. Let's say you had to pay $100 a month in your HOA fees and you didn't pay for 3 years. So that's $3,600, right? So now when you go to try to sell your home, you may owe like $6,000. You're like, why is it so much? I only owe $3,600. Because what you have to understand is when you don't pay anything, whether it's your credit card, car note, or whatever, they tag on late fees. You don't pay your mortgage, they tag on late fees. They tag on interest. You know, they're going to try to get paid. And then when you don't pay your HOA fee, for them to have a lawyer to slap a lien against your property, they got to tag on the legal fees. So yes, a lien will be thrown against your property. Now, can they go to foreclose on your home? Yes, they're second in line. What happens is the mortgage company actually owns the right to your has a lien against your property. They're the first lien. The HOA will be the second lien. If your property is free and clear and doesn't have any mortgage, yes, they can foreclose it. Because they know all the legal aspect, all the legal loophole. There's the lien. Whenever there's a lien against a property, depending on the amount and lien, and plus HOA dues associated with the home, yes, they can foreclose and get your property if you have no mortgage on the property. If you still have a mortgage on the property that you're paying for, they can't foreclose on your property because they can't supersede that first lien, which is that mortgage. But they can. Okay? These are some good questions. So please, if you have any questions, please have them to come in. I'm looking at my questions. All right, another question is, are rent-to-own properties managed by real estate agents or privately? Are rent-to-own properties managed by real estate agents or privately? Now, most real estate agents do not manage rent-to-own properties. A property management company does, in which you have some real estate agents who own property management companies, but a regular real estate agent does not manage rent-to-own properties. And privately, that is related to the property management company. So the answer to that question is, are rent-to-own properties managed by real estate agents? Not necessarily the agents, but it could be the companies the agents own. And privately, I mean, you can get rental properties can be managed by anyone privately, or like I said, a property management company. All right. So another question is, if I put an earnest money deposit on a property and I decide I no longer am interested in that property, is there a grace period of when I would receive full refund, partial refund, or no refund on the earnest deposit? Let me read that again. If I put an earnest money deposit, which is also known as an EMD, on a property and decide I am no longer interested in that property, is there a grace period of when I will receive full refund, partial refund, or no refund on the earnest money deposit? And here's the answer to that question. When I just was mentioning about contingencies, and also when that person asked me, is a contract voidable if all terms are agreed upon? There is no grace period on when you will receive a refund. If you're no longer interested in the property, you have to have a valid reason to void the contract. Otherwise, like I mentioned, your EMD, which is the earnest money deposit, can be requested in full by the seller. Now, how much you can get back, that's going to depend on excuse my language. I got tongue tied. That's going to depend on arbitrary when it pertains to the amount that you get back. In some cases, partial, half is agreed upon between the seller and buyer. If the buyer decides and tries to walk away, if they no longer are interested and they don't have a valid reason, going back to where is the contract voidable, like I said, the EMD can be requested because many sellers, they suffer a financial loss by choosing your offer over another offer, which they could have went to settlement and they wasted time. So because they wasted time, it's a cost associated to them. So sometimes they would request all of your EMD, earnest money deposit. And sometimes it can be agreed upon, but there's not necessarily a grace period, but a contingency, like I said before, can make sure that a buyer gets all of their earnest money deposit back. For example, if a buyer puts a contingency in place in the contract, and let's say they put 7 days in a contract and they go do a home inspection, 7 days for a home inspection as a contingency, a 7-day home inspection contingency. And then they go do a home inspection. And there are some things that are found upon the home inspection that the buyers feel like are too much, or they just say, you know what, I don't want this house anymore because there's too many issues. Then as long as they, with that home inspection report, send over a release of contract and also to receive their release of deposit, 9 times out of 10 they'll get their money back because they're within their rights. They're within the time limit of the contract and the contingency. They can get their money, their earnest money back. But when it pertains back, when it pertains to just wanting to no longer be interested in a property, and then they turn around and say, oh, well, I want my money back. What you have to understand is, as a buyer, if you make a offer on a property, yes, you don't own that house right now. You don't own, I don't know, maybe you don't own a home at all. I'm just going to assume that. But what you have to understand is the moment the seller decides to accept your offer and takes it off the market, they can no longer entertain it with other buyers. Therefore, they've chosen you. So you've gone through the process of saying, okay, I don't want this house anymore for whatever reason. I saw something better that I'm interested in. You wasted the seller's time. So again, the sellers can try to request your EMD. Like I said, what they would get, whether they get full amount, half amount, partial amount, that's going to all depend on your negotiating and the terms of the contract and arbitrate a lot of times. So if you put an earnest money deposit on a property and you decide you're no longer interested, is there a grace period? Now, as far as you getting your earnest money deposit back, if you're no longer interested, it's going to depend on the seller, because the sellers do not have to sign off just because you're not interested. Now, like I said, if you have a contingency in the contract, yes, you have a way out through the contingency, whether it's a home inspection contingency, a financial contingency, appraisal contingency, meaning like the appraisal contingency basically said if the contract comes back worth less than what I offer, I want one or two things. I want the appraised value, or I have the option and right to walk away. And the financial contingency is normally you getting financed in a timely manner. So it's basically said that I'm going to get financed. I'm going to do an application within whatever time you put in there, 3 days, 7 days, and then I'll be fully financed within a certain amount of days put in the contract. And if you are not approved during that time period, that's your financial contingency to get out. Your lender will have to provide a letter and explanation of why you weren't able to get financed, and then you can get your earnest money deposit. But just because you're not interested, like I've said with the person who asked, is a contract voidable if all terms have been agreed upon? Just because you're no longer interested doesn't mean you could just walk away because you wasted people's time. You wasted the agent's time writing the offer. You wasted the seller's time. So now you have people who believe time is money, because really time is money. So now they may come after your money. And because they may come after your money, now it becomes an issue because you feel like, oh, that's my EMD. But that's why before making a decision on purchasing that particular home, whatever home it is, make sure that you can call it home. Make sure that you really want to make an offer on that one, that you can see yourself there for years to come. Otherwise, you know what I'm saying, you can possibly be requested for your EMD. Thank you all for all these questions. I got another one from Tyrone. What does he say? Afternoon, bro. I have a property that was left in a trust to the family, but the person who had a copy of the trust can't find it. Is there a way to get a copy The house is in DC. Yes, everything is recorded when it pertains to trust. So everything is recorded. If you know, and you said the house is in DC, I would basically go to the courts on, what's that, 300 Indiana Avenue in DC. They should have a department in there. Unless you can go back to the lawyer who actually did the trust. But if you can't, then you can actually go to the court and provide them with the property information and everything. But they should be able to redirect you as far as helping you get a copy of that trust for that house in DC? That's a good question, Tyrone. And Tyrone's birthday was 3 days ago, August 15th. So wish my good brother and his wife. Ironically, him and his wife birthday are the same. So Cammy and Tyrone Brown, happy birthday to y'all again. That's ironic. Y'all both had the same birthday. You're welcome. Let me see what other questions that I may have. All right. I answered that. I answered that. I answered that. I answered that. All right. Let me see. Do I have any other questions here? Because I'm going to go to a brief topic. Go to a brief topic. All right, y'all. Give me 1 second. All right, y'all. Thank you all for your questions and answer. So normally sometimes when I do my show, I will do I would talk about a brief subject. Yesterday I posted online, I asked what was people's love language. You know, there's 5 love languages. And ironically, I had a conversation with my with my oldest daughter yesterday, and she actually during the conversation brought up the her love language. She told me her love language was acts of services, and my oldest daughter got married early this year. And she was telling me that her husband love language was physical touch. Now she brought it up. She's not even on my Facebook to even see the question. She's on my Instagram, but she's not my she's not on my Facebook. That's by her choice, not by mine. But long story short, when we were talking and I was looking at the questions about the love language, it dawned on me, why we are so unhappy in relationships. And I'm no relationship expert and everything, and I can only speak from my own personal experience. But when I hear a lot of things, you know, I feel like there's so much selfishness that goes on when it pertains to relationship. Everybody's in their feelings. It's all about how I feel, what I want, and everybody has an expectation of what the other person should and should not be doing. And the question I asked my daughter was, what about you? You know, you can tell me everything wrong about this person, but what about you? And I think a lot of times we should reflect on ourselves, because even when I was asking the question of what are people's 5 love languages, the one thing that stuck out amongst everything was quality time, especially with women. A lot of women want quality times, and a lot of them want acts of services and receiving gifts. Of course, a lot want physical touch as well and words of affirmation, but on the thing, quality time stuck out so much to me. So I asked my daughter and my son-in-law, I said, besides, because they take a lot of trips, like going to Florida, going to Puerto Rican, going to LA, they travel a lot. But I said, when y'all are home, how often do you all date? How often do you all spend time? Because sometimes I think sometimes when people are in relationships, they're more like roommates, and they're more about what that person can do. Oh, you got to pay the bill, or I need you to do this. Because when I was listening to them talk and I'm listening to him, is like gender role. He had expectations of what she should do. She had expectations of what he to do. But then the one thing I said to them, and I applied this to every relationship, I said the reason why y'all are not getting along is because y'all don't love each other unconditionally. Everything is based off condition. I said, you know, it's kind of hard nowadays to love someone unconditionally when you have so many options out here, you know, because one of the things she said to me is, oh, I got 3-5 people that's looking to replace him. And I said, yeah, those 3 or 5 people might really want to just sleep with you, and they ain't gonna really want to replace you, like take care of you. You might got a few that want to, you know, be, but 9 times out of 10, those that want to be with you, you don't want to be with them. Let's be real about it. So I said the problem is the people that we choose to be with, we don't deny ourselves to them. And deny themselves meaning like, okay, I'm going to try to make sure that this person's happy. I'm going to try to do for them what I want them to do without us getting in our feelings if they hurt us. Now, don't get me wrong. Nobody's supposed to be walked on, used, or abused and left confused. But I just think that a lot of times we also base things on our happiness, because I heard that yesterday. Oh, my happiness. And this is what I say to all the people who break up with people because you're not happy. Even when you are single, You're going to be unhappy with yourself, but you can't get rid of yourself. There are times people go into depression. You go into depression with yourself, but you can't get rid of yourself. See, the problem is you relying on someone else to make you happy when you need to be happy. See, a person being with you ain't there to make you happy. You know what I'm saying? I mean, what I mean by that, meaning I'm not saying you're not going to have happy moments, meaning it's not their job to make sure that you are happy. Because understand, sometimes that has to do with a void inside of you. Sometimes that has to do with a void of how you was raised and what you saw and what you experienced. And sometimes what we do is we take how we feel and what we want to be and challenge it on the other person. So even when I was talking about the 5 love languages yesterday, if you haven't gotten that book, the reason why it's good is because sometimes we treat people how we want to be treated, but that's not necessarily how they want to be treated. And again, when we're in relationship with people, we don't deny ourselves to them. We're not trying to make them happy. We're trying to see if they make us happy. But we're really, especially if you're married, I ain't talking about this couple, I'm talking about especially if you're married, you're supposed to, and I say this to my daughter because she's married, you're supposed to deny yourself of the other person. If you try to make them happy and they try to make you happy, it becomes a competition of who can make each other the happy. But the problem is, like when I was speaking to my daughter, and I'm like I said, I'm sharing from personal experience, not no one else's experience, but I hope others can relate. When I was talking to my daughter, and she was telling me she had told me she had an issue with her husband pulling up in front of the house and being in the car for 3 hours. So I said, well, what is he supposed to do? And she was like, he need to come in here and help me. And I said, did you talk to him? And she was like, yeah. And then when I spoke to him, he was like, no. He said, and then this was his reason. He said, I don't come in the house because when I pull up, I like to smoke weed. And she has asthma. So I don't want to come in there and cause any problems because I know she has asthma. So my daughter's like, well, he's sitting in the car for 3 hours, da 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 da. So I'm like, look. I said, y'all issues are minor. Okay, y'all can do things for each other, but y'all trying to focus on more so on what the other person should and should not be doing. And I told her, and I say this with a lot of relationships, but the reason why a lot of relationships fail is because people don't love each other unconditionally. They don't deny themselves for the other person. They don't respect the other person. They don't appreciate the other person. And the love is based off conditions. It's not based off unconditioned. That's why a lot of times, even with men trying to say what a woman brings to the table, you trying to judge her based off condition. When women out here trying to qualify a man on how much he make, you trying to judge him based off condition and what he earns. See, here's the problem with all that. If a man is going to judge a woman based off what she brings to the table, and let's say she brings it to the table today, and then 3 years from now, she can't bring it to the table for whatever reason, whatever is being brought to the table, are you still going to love her? Or you're going to try to replace her because at the moment she can't do that? And the same thing for a man. If he makes $300,000 a year and then he turns around and falls off tomorrow and he can't do it, are you going to replace him? Because here's the reason why I have an issue with both. And let me explain to you. A lot of women who want to say, oh, I need a man who make over 6 figures and stuff like that. I know 2 guys right now. One makes over $300,000 a year. Check out the number, $300,000. But he is terrible with his money, y'all. He spends over $500 a day playing lottery. He drinks every day. He doesn't pay his bills on time until he get a notice that's saying it's about to be disconnected or something. So here's the thing. It's not what you have, it's what you do with what you have. Because in real estate, I had clients that earn all types of income level. I recall one time having a young man who earned only $40,000 a year. This man had perfect credit. He had money saved up. Then I had another client who had over $200,000 he earned a year. He was in debt. His credit was bad. So it's not what you make. See, the problem is we've been conditioned by the way we were raised to get this person, get that person. It's all about what the person can do for us, but it's never what we can do for the person. See, I think a lot of times if we try to do more for the other person, and we are genuine about it without looking for something in return. You know, sometimes people just want to be appreciated. People just want to be loved. Things are simple. Like when I was holding a conversation with my daughter and her husband, my son-in-law yesterday, he said, and this really resonated with me. He said when he come home sometime, he just want a hug. And he can't even get a hug. And when I talked to my daughter, I said, do you know that? And you know what she said? Oh, he just comparing me to a relationship that he was in before. And I said, no. He's comparing to how he felt before. You can't say a relationship. Yeah, he might have got in a relationship, but he's in a relationship with you and you already know what the man wants. So you can't do simple things to make him happy because if you do that, maybe he'll make you happy. And she went off. So I just told her, look, sweetheart, I love you, but y'all both need counseling. Y'all both need counseling because that's the only way it's going to solve it. Because until y'all deny each other, till y'all love unconditionally, till y'all listen, respect each other, and appreciate each other, y'all going to always have these problems. And I say that because it's the same in so many relationships. Don't get me wrong. I'm older, I'm mature, and you know what I'm saying? But there were times where I felt like how they were behaving. And I'm just saying that I see a lot of grown people that are over the age of 40 and still act like they teenagers. I see people 50, 55, 60, 45, 40, and they still act like they 15. They still act like they're in high school. And I'm just talking about based off the relationship. And like I said, when I hear guys talking about something, yeah, what you bring to the table. And 9 times out of 10, these guys who asking for stuff ain't even got a table. They ain't got nothing themselves. You understand? So how you gonna try to base criteria on someone on things you don't have? You understand? And then even for those who tend to want to go overseas or whatever and get the what you kind of because they were raised a certain way, yeah, but they still human being. There's still certain basic needs that all people know. All people need to feel loved and appreciated. I don't care who you are, what your love language is. Because if you feel loved and appreciated, sometimes you'll go that extra mile for the person. You'll do more for a person if you feel loved and appreciated, regardless of what that person do for you. If you are with a person who is genuine, I ain't talking about some people because you got some manipulators out here and some users and abusers. So yeah, they'll fake the funk because you got a lot of great actors and actresses out here too. But I'm just saying that when it pertains to relationship, especially marriages, I feel that a lot of it fails because we don't deny ourselves. We don't love unconditional. Everybody wants somebody to, go the extra mile for them, jump through a hoop for them, while they themselves ain't looking to lift a finger for the other person. And like I told them, y'all living like roommates. And that's how a lot of people are living like roommates. You pay this bill, you pay this bill. I do this, I do that. But no, when you're married, it's supposed to be as one. You're supposed to be as one. You're supposed to, you know what I'm saying? Like when he was telling me about his car, yeah, this is my car. Can't nobody say nothing about it. And I said, but y'all supposed to be as one. How can not nobody say nothing about your car, not even your wife? And then when she was telling me about certain things, I'm like, that's supposed to be your husband. How he cannot say nothing about it? And y'all supposed to be as one. Because the problem is people ain't living as one. They ain't trying to be one. They just trying to live a certain lifestyle. They just trying to get that person to fit in where they want to fit in. So they got expectations for that person, what they should or should not be doing. But the problem is, what is the expectation for yourself? Because like I said, other people are not going to always make you happy. You got to make you happy. Because even when you're single, some of you are depressed. Even when you're single, you go through depression. Even when you're single, you can't get rid of yourself when you don't make yourself happy. Sometimes you ain't going to be happy because you're supposed to went to the gym. You didn't work out. You gained extra weight. Or you didn't do something you're supposed to do. You can't get rid of yourself. Guess what you do with yourself? I'm going to get it next time. I'm going to adjust. So a lot of times you need to take on that same attitude and same material when it pertains to dealing with the others. And this also applies to your loved ones, especially your children. Some people don't love their own kids. I know our kids get on our nerves, you know what I'm saying? Because I got 4 grown kids, 1 toddler, you know what I'm saying? But I know some of our kids get on our nerves. But here's the thing. A lot of times you need to pray for your kids, pray for your children. There's so much going on in the world today. Pray for your kids, y'all, because you can't leave your kids stranded because they 23-year-old and they acting like a knucklehead, or they 25-year-old and they didn't disrespected you. Yes, but guess what? Remember when you was that same age? Remember how you acted, okay? Because nobody's perfect in this world. And the problem is we are so quick to judge other people, but we're not quick to look at ourselves. We're not quick to judge ourselves. You know what I'm saying? But you're quick to judge other people. And understand, even though our kids might be older or grown, and they acting a fool and we feel like they should be doing a certain type of way, we still got to love them, y'all. Like out of my 4 grown kids, let me share something personal with y'all. My birthday's March the 2nd. Do you know I only got text messages from my grown kids? I ain't getting nothing from them. Father Day came, I ain't getting nothing from them. I've loved my kids my whole life. Was I disappointed? You damn right I was disappointed. But do I love my kids still? Yes, I do. I just pray for them because I got to leave things in God's hand. And that's what you got to do with your kids and with your family members that you're not getting along, that you don't like, or they don't like you. You have to leave things in God's hand. See, we always want to be quick to judge our kids. We want to be quick to judge the people you're in a relationship with. You want to do all these things, but the one common denominator is you. Why you ain't judging yourself? Why you not looking at yourself? Why you not critiquing yourself and doing a self-evaluation of you? Because guess what? Sometimes if you change certain things, they'll change certain things. And guess what? If they don't, you leave things in God's hand. That's all you can do, because you can't control anyone except yourself. And you can't make anyone happy except yourself. Yes, you can make them happy to the sense that when they with you and y'all having good times and y'all having a joyful time. Yes, but at the same time, though, you can only make you happy, because remember, even when you single, there are going to be times where you're going to be depressed about you. There are going to be times where you're going to make you unhappy. There's going to be times where you're going to let you down. And when you let you down, you don't demand anything from yourself. So how come when you're in a relationship, you're demanding something from your spouse? How come when you have kids, you're demanding certain things from them? You know why? Because you set these expectations of what they should and should not be doing. And when they don't live up to your expectation, then you look at them as a failure, or it as a failure. But see, here's the thing. One thing that I learned as I've gotten older is you should never set expectations of others. So you can show people things, you can teach people things, but you got to leave the results on whatever it is they do. And then based off the results, you need to critique things from there. Because if you set an expectation on others, 9 times out of 10, people have never lived up to your expectations. Because here's the one thing about life. You've never lived up to your own expectation, because everybody thinks they should be higher in life than where they are right now. Everybody thinks that they should have more than what they have right now. So guess what? You failed yourself in your life. But guess what? You ain't judging and critiquing yourself. You get up every day and live your life however you're going to live it and do the things you want to do. But you ain't critiquing yourself. You ain't say, damn, I didn't get that degree. Or damn, I didn't get that job. Or damn, I didn't work out enough to put my body in the shape that I want to do. You live with the way your body is, whether it's out of shape or in shape. You live with the job you work or whatever's going on. And you're going every day with your life. So I strongly suggest that when it pertains to your kids, when it pertains to your spouse and everything, that you get that book right there called The 5 Love Languages, and look at what your love language is and get the people to ring so you can find out what their love language is. Because here's the problem, y'all. We do not love each other enough. We really don't. Like even with the Montgomery Brawl, and everybody went and helped because it was a racial thing, which was good, and I was happy to see it. The one thing that popped in my mind was, if all those people were black jumping that man, would people have jumped in? And the answer is no. You ain't got to answer. I answer for you, no, because we've seen that all the time. We've seen black on black crime, people doing stuff against each other. But we don't do nothing. People be like, oh, that ain't my business. I ain't got nothing to do with that. People even seen women getting abused by men and walk away. You understand what I'm saying? So what I'm saying to you all is learn to love you. Learn to love you. Love each other. Love our own selves and stuff. We are so much better when we can be together. There's strength in numbers, just like it was shown with that Montgomery Brawl thing. It's strength in numbers. But again, y'all, we let us down. We don't judge ourselves. We don't critique ourselves. So what I'm saying to you is, please, 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 if you're in a relationship, especially if you're married, deny yourself for your spouse. Be unselfish. And love has to be unconditional. And if you don't know what unconditional love is, pray about it. But unconditional love is still doing things despite being mad at the other person, still doing things despite, still loving them, regardless of how they're treating you, because that's how you will want to be treated. And I know some people are like, oh, I ain't going to be a fool. I ain't going to be a doormat. But here's the thing about reality is you better fool some part in time in life. You've been a doormat some part in time in life. But sometimes you've been a fool and stuff to the people who didn't deserve it. And the person that you should deny yourself to and should submit to is the person you chose to marry. You don't need to do that with them. So the problem doesn't always lie in others. It lies within us. So I just wanted to reflect on that, because again, when I asked that question, what is your 5 love language? And I got all the response that I did on Facebook. And then for me to hold a conversation with my daughter, and she brings it up, I felt like, well, look, I need to talk about this, because the fact is that so many people out here don't understand what the love languages are. And I know like some people feel like, oh, my spouse don't love me. You know, listen, I'm not a relationship expert. But here's the thing that I do know. If you have a relationship with your God, whomever your God is, pray to your God to show you things. Pray for guidance. Pray for things that you need to know. You know, I pray right now with your dear Father. Everyone that's looking at this podcast right now, please help them in the area that you know that they need help, Lord. Please guide them, touch them, protect them, give them strength, give them wisdom, Lord. Please, Lord, show them what they need to see for them to be a better person for themselves, for you, for the people that's around them, Lord. Please help them, Lord, like only you can help them, Lord. Because, Lord, in this life that we're living today, we need you more than ever. And a lot of these relationships that we're having with family, that we're having with spouses are failing, Lord. And without you, Lord, there's no healing. And we cannot recover it from it on our own. So, dear Lord, I ask you to touch everyone that is watching right now. In the precious name of Jesus, amen. And I pray, and I pray, and I pray that whomever needs that help, regardless of your kids, regardless if it's your spouse, that the Lord willing gives you that, and that you see and things become clear to you, because every day is a struggle with some people. Every day is a struggle with many. And here's the thing, though, that a lot of people don't seem to understand. And I always say this, and I hope this resonates with so many of you all. Every day that you wake up, with your sanity and your health, you've already won the day. I don't care what bills you owe, because see, money can change everything around tomorrow. But see, if you've lost your mind and you got a lot of money, guess what? It don't matter, because your family gonna be fighting over it anyway. And if your health is deteriorating, like for example with Steve Jobs, the inventor of the iPhone, he had all the money in the world. Steve Jobs had all the money in the world, and he's passed away. His health deteriorated. And Robin Williams, the comedian, he suicide, psychological, mental. So if you wake up every day with your mental health and your good health, physical, you've already won. There are so many people sitting in the hospital that would love to be in the place that you are right now. And you don't take advantage of the day. The day is what God is giving us right now. The day is what God is giving us right now. So what I'm trying to say to you all is you've already won, despite what you're going through. So all you have to do is make an effort, and all you have to do is pray about things. Sometimes doors will open for you that you didn't even expect to open. Because when your heart is genuine and you're sincere about things, things tend to go in your favor. So if you don't have a good heart and all that, then sometimes you may wonder why you keep having bad luck. Maybe you need to change and talk to God, or go to church, or do something different. But I just say all this to say that I wish everyone the best. And if you haven't read the 5 love languages, please do so, because it's very insightful. It's not a long book. I got it around here somewhere. It's not a heavy book, but it's a good reading, and it will really open your eyes up. And some of y'all eyes need to be open. The only thing some of y'all see is what y'all strolling on social media, or what's going on this weekend. But y'all don't even see the person in front of you every single day, which is your spouse. You know what I'm saying? The attention y'all give y'all phones, if y'all gave half of that attention to y'all spouse, y'all can improve y'all relationship. And I'm going to end it on that. So I thank you all today for joining me on my show. Again, real estate, real life, real talk, and real live with Damon, the agent. I appreciate you all joining me each and every Friday. Today, again, is Friday, August the 18th, 2023. And if y'all have any real estate questions, please also always reach out to me. Also, please follow me on all my social media platforms, which it should be on here right now. You can also find me on my website, damontheagent.com. If you have any questions or concerns, you can always call or text me. My number is right there, which is 202-618-1382. I thank you all for always joining me. I thank you for your feedback. I thank you for your questions. If you have any real estate questions, please write them down, because Q&A has become a very popular feature on my show. And I really thank you all. I pray that you all have a great weekend. And I am going to see you all soon.